6 weeks maybe, the talks here have been getting increasingly esoteric. And in my mind, they're becoming more and more real, meaning that they are exploring a very large sensibility, a very large sense of the universe we live in. Except that most people don't consciously inhabit that fullness of the universe. Most people live from like here to here. And the idea of expanding that seems attractive, I think, to many people because that helps them get out of the here part. Everything in the middle part here is full of the struggle of being human. It's stressful, it's demanding, it's attractive and repulsive. It has all of these dynamics in it. And a lot of us would like to just feel our way above and beyond that and somehow free ourselves of the day-to-day struggle. And I think many people approach meditation as a doorway out of here. And that's sort of understandable because in a certain sense, life is a struggle and very few people know how to engage that struggle. Many of us feel, in a way, helpless in the human drama. Our sense of self feels so fragile, feels so full of hope, pain, ambition, failed efforts, all of these things that happen in this realm of being that are so demanding, and we struggle with them so hard for almost, if not our entire lives. And this idea of meditation comes in for some people who begin to question what we're doing here. What is this discomfort that human beings have? What is the pain we seem to go through all the time? Maybe not all the time, but because some of us occasionally touch something we call happiness, or joy, or love, or bliss, or whatever you want to call it. And once you've touched it, you think, well, there must be a way to have it permanently. Why can't I have permanent happiness? I remember as a kid going, why does it keep going away? What did I do that made it go away? Where am I wrong in myself? There must be a way to hold on to this thing. And it wasn't until many, many decades later that I realized you can't hold it. You can't hold on to happiness. You can't hold on to bliss, really. But you can, through this idea of meditation, find a way to, if you will, make peace with this. That's the garage door opening for those of you who don't know what's going on here. You won't hear that, but there was a big poof sound downstairs. My son is going out to meet my other son. How do you make peace with this? Well, the extraordinary thing, really, is that Rudy taught us a practice. And it's not a unique practice because every form of meditation essentially is trying to help you understand, how do I find release from the struggles of this world? And it's really easier and harder than anybody imagines. I say it's easier because it doesn't take much to get there, but that little bit takes a rewiring, if you will, or a repositioning of your entire psyche. What we're telling you to do with meditation is be still. Simply be still. and acknowledging that that stillness offers something. And what it offers is a relief from and a release from the dynamic of your mental, emotional, physical struggle with life. It's really interesting. We all come into this world with a mixture of characteristics, and some of those are positive in a way and some are negative. Some of us get beauty, some of us get intelligence, some of us get gifts, some of us get genius, some of us get very little in some sense. The only thing we have that is common in what we get is life. We all get life. We all get an opportunity to touch the world, to breathe, to feel, to experience being alive. And interestingly enough, I don't think anybody here would give that up easily. There's something powerfully compelling about being alive, powerfully. And we hunger for it. We have an enormous appetite for life. And we really love being alive. But we don't like that the rewards of life that appear to be rewards, the joy, the happiness, the ease, the financial well-being, the whatever it is that seems to come, that it doesn't last, that it doesn't totally satisfy. So there's this constant urge to reach for more. There's this constant reach for that which we don't have. And so there's this endless struggle and reaching and activity, and the mind saying, why don't I have, and what do I have? And the mind gets very busy. And then there are people who start to enter into your life, or maybe don't start to, who start there at the beginning in your life, who give you or don't give you, who withhold, who nurture you or who take away your love, your energy. There are people who come in and criticize you. There are people who come in and you desire beyond all possibility, and they are not possible for you. And you get very conflicted, and the wounds become very festered, and the deep parts of your psyche become knotted up. And you go, I can't bear this. I can't bear the world on some level. And yet still, for most people, they would not give it up. The problem is that we lose perspective in life. We lose perspective. We get lost in the day-to-day reality of being. We get so lost. And we don't remember who we are. We don't remember why we're here. And we don't know what to do about any of the stuff we're feeling our way through. We don't know what to do with our pain other than do what the pharmacists tell us, or the alcohol providers tell us, or the purveyors of distraction tell us. There's so many people in this world who offer us some kind of momentary escape from what we're going through, but it doesn't last, and it also becomes addictive. You want more of the thing that gave you peace. And the very interesting, compelling element of all this, that the more release you get, the more you need that thing which gave it to you. You need more and more and more of the same thing. And you become addicted to whatever that may be, in the world. It could be Hershey bars. Everybody has something that is their thing that locks them into, I want more and more. And then you get more miserable, right? Because, you've put on 400 pounds, or you can't live without 40 prescriptions, and all, or become an alcoholic, and then you try to break out of that thing. There's cycles and ways to break out of it. And I have to say, probably one of the simplest approaches to breaking out of your own disturbances is stillness. And meditation is only about that. It's about sitting still. And of course, as all of you know, that's not easy to do, because as you start to get still, you begin to become aware of two things. One, you want to go to sleep, or two, in the stillness, your noisy mind and emotional life and physical body are very, very, very disturbing and disturbing of the peace that you're looking for. So there's a mechanism. There's a mechanism to really stay still. And everybody gives you a different version of it. It can be a breathing exercise. It can be a mantra. It can be focusing on one thing. It doesn't matter the thing you choose to do. I teach Rudy's work, which is a double breath, which brings you into the chakra system, which helps you identify with spaces that are very, very powerfully central to who you are. And as you start to go into these spaces, they offer a kind of embrace. I was giving an introductory class today, and one of the things I describe, and whenever I describe it, it's always very comforting to watch people respond to it, but it's this idea that entering, let's say, your heart chakra is like stepping into a warm house on a cold night. This is what it feels like to enter into you, to enter into yourself. And the idea of meditation is not to get out of this, it's to find a way to be in this specific realm of existence that we are all in with our bodies and minds, with a certain amount of real and deep gratitude and appreciation and willingness to endure what is presented. And the way you do it is to find your way into the heart chakra, the center of your chest or your belly, which makes it even more powerful. You enter into your heart chakra and you ask inside for help to surrender, or you just sit still and watch this thing invite you inward. It just takes you into itself, and you feel well. You feel okay. You feel fine. Or more than that, you feel wonderful. You enter into yourself and you go, oh, thank you. And it releases you from the drama, the obsessions, the conflicts, the pain, the struggle, for at least a little while. It really releases you. Unlike prescription drugs and alcohol and all the other things we do to calm ourselves down, this you don't need to increase and get more and more of. You just need to go there. You just need to know you can go into your own heart, into the center of your being, and just sit. Rudy's teacher Nityananda says, go there and roam, which implies that there's a big space to move around in. But it is so full of embrace and relief. Embrace and relief. Does it mean that the circumstances around you change? No. They may not change. Does it mean that you suddenly have more power to alter your life and the world? Maybe. Maybe. It could. But even if it doesn't give you that, it gives you this place of retreat, a place of possible reinvention, release from your struggles. It's a little bit like going to bed at night and waking up in the morning refreshed. You get up and you have this ability to engage the world that wasn't there when you went to bed, perhaps. You go back into this space and you come back from it with renewed energy, renewed capacity, an ability to live your life day to day, moment to moment, with this feeling of, I'm going to make it simple, a feeling of yes. Yes. This part is easy. Going into your heart, finding this place of yes is easy. Applying it to the day is work. It's really work. And Rudy called this practice we do work, spiritual work. And he did it for a reason. Because you can't just go to this place of yes and then step back into the world and have the slings and arrows that Shakespeare called of outrageous fortune thrown at you and just go, yes. I mean, you actually can do that, but it takes great muscle. Great muscle. And Rudy would call it the muscle of surrender, of letting go. Stuff gets thrown at you that is unbearably difficult in life, and the longer you go through life, the more will come at you. You're a lucky person if you don't have some major stuff thrown at you during the course of your life. That's really unbearably difficult. And finding this place of yes is fine if the muscle is really established. But if you have yes, and you step outside and this thing comes like that yes barely holds up. Barely. You have to go back in and back in and back in, a lifetime of work. And what it does is it makes you capable of walking outside and saying, "Thy will be done." Yes. And watching it come at you, watching it, the forces descend upon you, the difficulties, the struggles, the demands, the challenges of life. And you just go, yes. It's so potent because it really transforms you. It makes you into a center of gravity, of support, of things come at you and you can withstand them. You are powerful. You are powerful. And if you really do this in some extraordinary way, meaning that you really establish yourself in this yes to life, there's the possibility that this universe that we operate in, this birth-death configuration here, this narrow spectrum of existence, suddenly goes, I don't know if you can see that on camera. It just goes like that. And you're no longer locked into this lifetime. You're suddenly kind of infinite. Suddenly you're not, your life is kind of like, oh, it's not my life. Everyone is going through this. Every human being, that the whole construct of the universe in some way is dynamically full. It's both challenging and difficult and also triumphant. We celebrate that. If you go to the movies, anybody who goes to the movies knows how greatly we cheer for the triumph of the spirit. The triumph of an individual over all of these demands. And when you finally free yourself of the universe that's bounded by death or birth and death, you become deathless. You become one with this gigantic ball of configuration of existence. And what becomes really interesting is that this configuration of existence with all of its push and pull and explosions and drama and matter, if you go into the heart of your heart chakra, you discover it's at the center of all of this stuff. It's the center that's the center of you as a person is the center of the whole universe. The entirety of the universe with all of its drama and all of its stuff. This is the very core, and your practice of going in here as a person becomes not only a doorway to your own, if you want to call it salvation, or your own infinite self, it's the very infinite self of all there is. And you have a doorway that you can, through this practice, discover, enter, and live there. It's a remarkable, remarkable opportunity that we all have. Some people call it God within. To find God within. This center that you practice discovering through this double breath process, or through your simple meditation, or through whatever you want to call it, this entering into yourself, this asking for help to surrender, this reaching deep into who you are, takes you on a journey not into the center of you, but the center of all that is. So when the you disappears, either biologically, physically, or metaphysically, when you become aware and awaken to the oneness of your truth, you will discover, no matter how big you may expand into, you are at the core this simple warmth on a cold night. That's what you are. You will walk into the warmth of your soul in the face of the coldness and the deadness of the universe. And it will animate all of that. Will it explain all of that? I've talked about this a lot. For me, it still remains the mystery. I cannot cogitate what this is. I cannot comprehend it. I can't even begin to approach it. All I know is, I know that it is what it is. I know it is, and I know I am, and I am at the center of it. And I am exploring it through all of the individual beings that have manifested in the universe to come to know what it is or what I am. That's what we are. We are all sensory beings playing in the fields of the Lord, if you will. That's what we are. And we're all doing it with the same amount of difficulty, with the same amount of struggle, the same amount of unhappiness, confusion, personal drama. Everybody. And when you get to a place where your drama is no longer important, suddenly, rather than be free of your drama, you become one with all drama, with everybody's drama. So, and you feel it, trust me, you feel everybody's suffering, everybody's pain, only now you have an ability to look at that, to have unbelievable empathy for it, and to be able to go deep within your own warm room and embrace the totality of what's out there. And if you're good at it, some of that warmth will come out and will affect those people around you, and they will be able to feel that they too can bask in the presence of that warmth. But what's really wanted, ultimately, is that that warmth leads them into their own personal warmth. Because nobody's supposed to gather around the fire of the teacher and warm themselves permanently. The whole idea is to find the warmth within you. And if you don't do that, the teacher's meaningless, because the teacher is impermanent. The only thing that's not impermanent, I'm going to tell you because I feel that at the core of my being, is the warmth. It's just there. And it's there for you and 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 you. Nobody doesn't have it. And my job is basically to reflect it out enough so that you trust what I'm saying and you find your road inward. You find your path to the self. And it will be challenged every day. Every day it will be challenged. You will never have a moment when you're in bodily form where you don't have to work this, where you don't have to somehow take a breath and say, okay. And it's amazing what it does. I mean, it's amazing. All I can tell you is you get relief from the struggle. Or you see the struggle in a way that makes it noble, that makes it worthy, that you're going to go through it. You look at yourself and you go, what did I do? You realize you are the problem. You, yourself, are the problem. You've created half of the stuff, and the world has created the other half. And your reaction to the world is what made these things so complicated. So if you can change your part of the dynamic and just relax, take a breath, ask for help to surrender, open, step inside and feel that you can sit on a nice plush couch in the middle of your own heart, fire's roaring and you're just feeling wonderful. If you do that, it will be very different when the snow is pounding outside. These guys just came from 101 inches of snow, whatever it was, on 110 inches of snow. You know, they've had it all winter long. You can sit inside on a snowy night like that, or a snowy 3 months like that, which is what happened, and find peace and joy, even though the world is plummeting you with whatever it wants to throw at you. It doesn't stop the storms, it just stops how you react to the storms. And you can find joy in it, or you can find misery in it. You can become one with the drama, or you can become one who transcends the drama. Or you can, get in it and do the battle. Fight it out. The universe doesn't care exactly. What it's really aiming at is for each person, ultimately, to recognize who and what they are. And I'm not exactly sure it cares that you do it. And that's an interesting point. You care. You care. And as long as you care, that's what matters. And you can take the responsibility through this practice of entering into the warmth inside and saying, I'm setting up house here. And I'm going to be able to boil hot water and make tea. I'm going to use that flame in the fire to cook toast, and I'm going to make it help me to warm myself on a dark night and light the way. And it's right here, right now. That's the non-esoteric version of this practice. I can take it out into all different ways of sort of exploration and tell you you don't exist and nothing exists and we're nothing in the end, and I can do all that, which is interesting on some level, and I think ultimately more true than what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, in the here and now, there's something you can do to get through your life. And that's an important piece of information. And if you don't have that piece of information, you're going to make a lot of wrong choices and get really lost in the drama of existence. And if you get really lost, this will always be there to guide you back, but will you find it? Well, I think there are a lot of teachings that say you will, but they also say it may take a few billion lifetimes. You don't have to go through that. If you're hearing this talk now, if you're sitting in this room, there's something that's heard it. So now you have the chance to do something about it. What is it that you do? Just sit down and find that sweet spot in your heart. Breathe into it and let it embrace you. That's what we're here to do. It's just that. And live with that, period. So, anyway, that's the antidote to the obscure and the esoteric. It's really simple, and you do it right now, right here. That's all there is. Any questions?
When I sort of reviewed some of Rudy's stuff in a book, and he talked about when you work spiritually, a lot of times you look like crap, and because it's all of your stuff comes up, and he'd talk about his own deaths and rebirths constantly, drinking 32 cups of tea, just sitting with it, and then he talked about being spiritually worked. And so you work spiritually and you get spiritually worked. You're always dealing with energies and stresses in life, so aren't you always being spiritually worked, or how do you...
Yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you have two ways of looking at it. One is you're being punished, tormented, and bullied by life, and the other is I'm being spiritually worked. In other words, you have an opportunity to react to what's happening in your life. And that way, Rudy said life is the teacher. Life will always come at you. It never stops. I don't care if you're a monk sitting in a cave, Or if you're, working on Wall Street, life is rushing at you. I don't care if you have $1 billion in the bank or you have $2 in the bank. Life is coming at you. And if you have $1 billion, it's going to take it all away. If you have $2 in the bank, you'll struggle with, how do I survive on $2? Everybody has to figure it out according to how they live in this realm of existence. It's very challenging. The forces are, as Rudy called it once, brutal. They're just brutal. And you don't know that so much when you're a little kid and when you're in your middle life and you're dreaming about, oh, I'm going to get married and have kids and have a house and a job and all of these wonderful things. And, and then reality sets in, and every one of those things demands effort and demands work, constant work. You can't get away from work. You just can't. So spiritual work is really called living. That's what it is. You're just living. But if you're not making it spiritual, if you're just making it, it's just in its life, people call it life, and they go, help me get through this, and they look for lots of ways out, there's so many. And I look at, watching TV. It's so interesting to me how many people get through life by watching TV, because they don't sit still at night. When it used to be in the old days, you had a fire and you had the sky, that was it. Or you had sex, clearly kept us going. But what do you have, now is everything to not in any way focus on the core of what you are. So you have to make time to do that. And what you really have to do is, not have to, but ideally, find a system inside yourself, which is sitting still every day for a half hour and figuring out how to do this, and then kind of do it all day long. And then you can even do it while you watch television. You can actually find that television becomes instructive, as does every second of your life. There's nothing that's not feeding you. Nothing. It's constantly feeding, demanding, and in allowing you to expand and grow as a human being. But real expansion and growth as a human being is not about accumulation. It's really about finding your true self and finding a way to be this expression of warmth, if you will. I'll call it warmth, but it's more than that. But for the moment, this expression of warmth and love in the world. That's what we're kind of learning how to do. In the end, you might call it spirit, the expression of this still point, or this expression of self for everyone around you. Another great word is presence, to be present with people. Because most of us are not present with each other. Most of us are programmed. We're like little robots doing this little thing. Talk, 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 talk. Oh, that felt good. That felt bad. Oh, that's good. That's terrible. That's what we do all day long. And a whole day goes by, then you watch TV and you're unconscious, and you go to bed unconscious, and you wake up unconscious. You go to bed unconscious, you wake up unconscious. Or as I said a few weeks ago, Rudy reminded me once that he said there was one day where he felt at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he suddenly was aware that he existed. That he said, oh, I'm here. That's such a fascinating thing to me, because until he said that, I never woke up to that fact that I was here at all, let alone at 3 in the afternoon. And then the journey through this is to go, I really am here. I am here. Then it gets bigger. I am this. I am this. I am. It gets vast. But in the meantime, most of us are this leviathan of being, and all we're aware of is, I can't find the Kleenex. Where did I put the Kleenex? And that's your whole obsession for an hour. What is that about? It's just how we live. We live in a very, very tiny little microscopic version of what we really are. And that's a source of real suffering, because you're not being your true self. You're not even hinting at it, knowing at, looking for, searching for what you are. You're deadening it, deadening until you're just this dead thing that dies. Death. What is death at that point? It's just, I don't know. This dead thing dies, and this little tiny little bit squeak of life goes out of it, and it's over. But that's not what we're here for. It's not what this is about. It's really about discovery of what one is, and that discovery is worth it. It's worth being alive. It's worth suffering. It's worth the drama. It's worth the cataclysmic events of human experience to find that. And I have to say, for some people, It is exactly the cataclysmic suffering that brings you to discovery. Only through that. So therefore, I don't look at that stuff as like that's bad, terrible, evil. You know, I look at it as, for most people, it's the only thing that works. It doesn't have to be that way, honestly. You don't have to go through the worst of the worst to get there. But that is pretty effective. You can also just go, right now, thy will be done, and be one with it. And it's remarkable. You can live that. You can live as one with what is. The universe, with God, with yourself, whatever you want to call it. You are that. And we all are, every one of us. Any other questions?
You say you have to still work at it. I got a sense like every day you personally have to work at it. So I was curious, like, what does that look like?
Be very specific. Some days I wake up joyous to be alive, and some days I wake up going, oh my God. You know, I mean, my whole family's been sick this week. Everybody's been sick, and it's a challenge dealing with trying to babysit with kids whose noses are running and knowing that you're going to get sick. And Blanche got really sick, and my son is visiting, and his girlfriend is here, and she got sick. And I mean, there's just this stuff. It's heavy duty stuff. And my son Ari and I don't want to make a whole big thing out of this, but we have our existential issues with each other. And I got very concerned about how am I going to spend a day together with him without this stuff coming up. And so I just sat down and did this practice. What we do, I just sat down, sat in the living room, and I just opened my heart, and we had the most extraordinarily wonderful day. The most extraordinary exchange, the connection with that heart-to-heart thing that has been something we've been missing in our connection. And it was like the part of me that felt how sad it would be to be with him and not touch that space, which is what I was projecting would happen, because it often has happened. But it just transformed it. It just transformed it. And I cannot tell you the depth of love and joy that have opened up in me in the last 48 hours because of I sat down and did the work rather than approached it with tension. I just approached it with being in it. And I addressed it with him directly. We both, because he knows what we do, he's done this work, we both came to it with clarity, you know. Because, you know, most people for us, truly, this is really important, most people are other. They're really other. So we surround ourselves with people who are not other, who are comfortable to us, that we like being with. If there's somebody else, we tend to avoid them. Rudy used to say, interestingly, he would go to a cocktail party and he would see all the people he wanted to talk to and the ones he didn't want to be with. And he would always go to the ones he didn't want to be with, because he felt that's where the opportunity lay. That's where the growth took place. Sometimes people enter your life who are other, and you give birth to them. That's what's really interesting. It can be your own children.
Yeah.
You know, and you go, now what? Now what? And Ari and I have many aspects of that. There's a lot of otherness, and we keep trying to work around it, but it's hardly do we get to the clear point where we are not other, where we are one thing, we're one being that really loves itself and loves, in a way, in the manifested state, each other. And I had to work it, you know, and I've been doing this for 50 years. And I had to sit there, but what was so great was a voice, I could call it a voice, said to me, sit down and do the work. And so I did. And I like to think that I'm above that. You know, that I've practiced for so long, I just kind of just enter the situation and it works out. Well, often it's really true, it does do that. But there are times, and this was one of them, where that was not occurring at all. And I thought, if I take this, what I would call poisonous aspect, this closed, tight, judgmental, fearful thing that was operating into this lunch we were about to have, it would be unpleasant and potentially explosive and wrong-headed and all the things I didn't want. And so I just said, I want to be present with this. I want to be present with this meeting with other. And so I explained this to him in the car. And we started talking immediately, and then we went and had the most beautiful lunch the most beautiful dialogue, this exchange that I can tell you every parent wants with their child, and we had it. You know, it's really beautiful, and that's how it works. So nobody gets off scot-free. You don't get off saying I don't have to do anything. You know, you have to fight. You have to fight to get it right. It's never easy. It's never easy. But it's easy to remember to do something. And then you get there and you just have to bring yourself to the truth of what is in that moment, and don't cover it up with fantasy, don't cover it up with euphemism. Go to the tart, go to the truth, be real. Be real with an open heart and watch what happens. It's astounding. It's the only way to get through life. And it's both personal and it's not personal, because something opened bigger than that in our conversation. Something at the core of my being, whatever it is I am, found another connection with truth and openness and honesty and the expression in life, in the manifestation of life. It's a big deal. It's a little bit like a nuclear bomb going off almost. It just changes the equation of the situation. And most of us don't dare do that. We all hide from those moments. You can spend a whole life never saying what you need to say to your family, to the people you love. You can spend a whole life never saying your truth. You know, you don't want that. This gives you the power, the capacity, and in a way the instinct to go forward and do that every time.
I love your story about Rudy going to a party and doing that, because he didn't want things to be easy in a way. He liked the difficulty, because it's almost like they were all teachers. He knew who his teachers
Well, no, that's
would
exactly
be.
right. Well, Rudy used to say, and it's a phrase that can be misused, but if there's a harder way, show me, because it must be wonderful. And I mean, you know, you can make that a reason to beat yourself up endlessly, but really, not opting for the easy is often a way to grow, or a way to find a more amazing life. If you're always opting for the easy, you will cocoon yourself in something that is not tested by life and not alive in the world, usually. You know, it's not safety is not a good choice. Anyone else? Okie doke. Thank you for coming. Thank you for flying 3,000 miles to be here. I appreciate it. And see everybody next week here. And that'll be we'll have one more class here in April, and I'll send out a note about that. But mostly I'll be in LA or elsewhere. So we'll look forward to seeing you guys. Thank you.